Yeah, so my wife finally started listening. So hello, wife.
Really?
Yeah, I told her you can just listen to the first 5 minutes, just all the intro bullshit. You can skip the rest. And she was like, well, I actually listened to the other stuff and it was kind of interesting. It was so funny this morning. So I'm on.
Is she listening to the guest shows or to
I think she just started sipping through, so no idea. But then this morning I basically got a snap. So I'm on Snapchat, you know.
Still.
Boomer, still.
Yeah.
And my wife's best friend and I, we snap occasionally. And she snapped a video, and the caption went, "I just said, mom's getting a coffee, okay?" And daughter went, "Yeah, I just have to find something." And then she walks from the kitchen with the video into, her child's room, and everything has just been turned upside down. We're talking everything. All the boxes with toys, all the clothes, everything just in a big pile on the floor in a matter of like 2 minutes. So it's like, yeah, there you go. We're back to kids intros. That's what it is. Are you gonna segue? No.
I'm like, lots of go-to-market fit.
I just blew your mind now with all this stuff.
I just don't get it. I mean, so what? She was in the thing.
She was in the kitchen,
walked
made a
out,
coffee,
came back,
had the coffee.
But the snap was basically, hey, I just walked out for 5 seconds or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because otherwise, like, it was planned, basically.
I'm a storyteller, It comes natural to me.
Everyone follows along.
Exactly.
You take the audience where it is.
I mean, if you're going to write a review, please cite my amazing storytelling / segue skills. Would highly appreciate it. It will go in the performance review.
Is any of this year intro worthy?
Yeah, all of it. We're keeping it in. So anyway, I'm holding in my hand.
Oh, wow.
A report. So just I don't know if Bart can zoom on this for the folks watching, but we got, you got, I should say, early access to a report that Winning by Design and Jakob van der Kooi, our friends over there, have been working on.
Yes, very special.
And
it's gonna get published later today.
Yes,
basically Tuesday morning West Coast time when this airs. Basically, when this episode airs.
And I asked, is it okay for us to publish it? And you said, well, he replied with ... wink emoji. So I guess yes.
I guess that's a yes.
I guess that's a yes.
Consent.
But in any case, we instantly read this report over the weekend.
Yep.
I was like, okay, yeah, we probably need to talk about this because it is pretty darn interesting. So the title is, Has SaaS Lost Go-to-Market Fit? It probably will fit with the title of this episode you kind of clicked on, right? Yeah. So we're not fooling anyone here. And we're basically going to run through this report before you have a chance to give it a read. And you should definitely check it out. You can find it on Winning by Design's website where it will be published, and we'll update the show notes after the fact once it's there.
Yeah, and I think also I'll update my LinkedIn post featuring this episode.
Post on LinkedIn.
I know. Wow. Passive-aggressive marketing person here.
Well, we'll get into why once we see how terrible things are. We need to do everything to justify our work now.
So...
Yes. So loss of go-to-market fit. I think first off, in the report, they say what is go-to-market fit and what is product market fit. Let's just clear this out of the way. Product market fit is what to sell. Go-to-market fit is how to sell it.
Yes.
And I think maybe another point to position the report is a lot of the data in here is from a wonderful gentleman called David Spitz. He basically ran a series of LinkedIn posts analyzing the, what do you call them? The filings, the quarterly results of publicly traded companies.
Yeah, I forgot. It's basically the earning calls.
Yes.
But the transcript of those.
Yeah. And basically created the stats that are the foundation of this report.
Yep.
So it's publicly available data. Anyone can find it, but it also means it's IPO level companies.
So maybe a quick refresh, right? So you have those different stages. Product market fit is usually the first one. You need to figure out, what's the product and is there a market and can you sell it and do those things fit?
Yeah.
Right. Then the next stage, this is usually up until $1 million. Now some people say maybe up until 2 million. Go to market fit is then what it takes you to go from 2 to 10 usually. Really figuring out how to sell this product in a scalable way, in a repeatable way, and so forth, without the founders involved, yada, yada, yada. And then once you get out of that, you have go-to-market fit, then you get into like scale-up stage. It's like all kinds of funky other ways of trying to describe what this is. And the really interesting piece here is obviously that, especially with the data that you use from, post-IPO, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars of ARR.
Yeah.
And Jaco and Winning by Design by extension basically kind of questioning, well, have they all lost their go-to-market fit?
Yeah.
Are they basically all back to square two? Not square one, they have product market fit, but they're all back to square two after going product market fit, go-to-market fit, scale up, sustainable scale, IPO, fireworks, and let's go.
Yeah.
And all of them like, whoop. Back to go-to-market fit. So, and the interesting thing is obviously how the F does, Jaco, and actually I'm just seeing it's also Dave Boyce, kind of co-authored this thing.
Oh, yeah.
How do they get to the conclusion that that all of those companies have lost their go-to-market fit?
Yeah. Well, they use data.
They use a bunch of data. Do you have some nuggets for us, maybe?
Well, I think they first off, they run us through the backstory. We came from this period of growth at all cost, means that we ended up with a lot of motions that some were sustainable, some probably weren't. Now it's the efficiency craze, so a lot of folks have been cut, but we're still seeing a lot of things unwind at the moment. And some of the things they get into here is first off that the growth rates have decreased. I don't think there's anything new there. We saw OpenView, and I think this was also the catalyst for some of the layoffs we saw 12 months ago and kind of resurfacing a little bit at the moment.
Yep.
But growth rates have decreased. I can't remember the exact stat. We can kind of, open it up here and have a look.
Or, you at home can open it up while you're driving the car, the metro.
Download the report, take a look.
Yes.
Growth rates, they're down. It was the same we saw with OpenView's report, which, by the way, is for private companies.
Yep.
So, it's kind of across the board thing. It's not just the big behemoths who went public. It's across the board, right? So that was the first sign that probably something is not, right.
The next sign is net retention rate is down, right? So across the public companies, I think it was pre this period, and we're talking late 21. So we're talking recession. It's not recession, but kind of, actually B2B SaaS recession.
Yeah.
B2B,
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Kind of a
in
niche
our
of the
little
market.
bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's the problem. But basically, since the net retention rate declined from, the mid 120s to 110,
Yeah.
basically, plus minus a percent. And there was even like a nice little nugget in there, despite price increases
Yeah.
across the board. And, this is where they're taking it, this is anecdotal, we don't have this, in data.
Yeah.
But basically kind of all of those companies have increased their prices by a couple of percentage points.
Yeah.
So really, if you were to take the net of that, you probably kind of land somewhere in 105
Yeah.
or something like this, net retention.
And I think that's also what Winning by Design, I believe, at least that what David mentioned, around 105, that's probably going to end up being the benchmark going forward. And in the OpenView report, we talked about this in a previous episode. It's no longer land and expand.
Yeah.
It's land and maintain.
It's land and hold on for dear life.
Please don't leave. So that's kind of terrible.
Yes.
Actually.
And that in combination leads to pretty terrible unit economics.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, CAC payback is up 50%, which 2 years ago, everyone was like, oh, now efficiency and, net retention and all of these things. And despite everyone focusing on them, all of them just got worse.
Yeah.
And obviously, it makes total sense, right? We've seen what Spotify did layoffs again this month. This whole layoff thing isn't over.
No.
Right? This has been now going on for 2 years and it's ongoing.
Yeah.
And pretty much the same is also happening with vendors. People they're not laying off vendors, they're just firing them.
Yeah.
And that's basically what's driving, number one, the net retention piece, right? And then number two, makes it so much harder to sell these days, which is then driving the customer acquisition costs as well, right? Kind of those two things coming together.
There's no doubt folks have gotten more cost conscious. I saw someone mentioning, hey, we used to have Zoom Info. We replaced them with someone who delivers 80% of what they do at 20% of the cost. And that's just one example. Then we talked about DocuSign
No,
this
I
morning, and
no,
you know,
honestly, I had a very interesting call with a very interesting gentleman, and it's a fairly large organization. I'm not going to mention any names.
no, it's
Fairly large organization. They just ripped out Jiminy.
Mhm.
It's like a cheaper version of Gong.
Yeah.
But like, I think for 300,000 euros, 400,000 euros or something like this.
Yeah.
They just ripped out Salesloft.
Wow.
And we're talking 150 reps and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think they ripped out Calendly. Calendly probably the kind of the cheapest ticket here. But they just kind of cut 500,000 in spend. And this company is growing 80-90%, by the way.
Yeah.
At, very, very large size. They just ripped all of that stuff out and replaced it with, some HubSpot tooling, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was already
Like a
included in the
platform.
contract.
Yeah.
And this is just one example, right? I mean, let's just say 2-3 years ago, someone, just ripping out Salesloft would be like, what? Are
Yeah,
you
you're
insane?
mental. Yeah.
And
How will you grow?
first of all, it kind of works also using this other stuff, right? And I think so. I challenged him on the Jiminy, the call recorder. It's like, yeah, we just use the Zoom recorder.
Yeah. Okay. So.
No. But the thing is, so when you have the Zoom Enterprise, so you're making lots of advertisement here.
Yeah.
But if you use a Zoom Enterprise package, I think you basically kind of get the transcript automatically pushed into the deal that is from, right?
Okay.
And it's really about the trend. Of 150 reps, no one is listening to their yesterday's call, right? It's kind of, it doesn't happen. It's really about the intelligence that happens there, also the competitive stuff.
Yeah.
And they transcribe all of that just as much as Jiminy and Gong does. Right?
Yeah.
So, anywho, rough fucking times out there.
Yeah.
Which is basically kind of creating this whole situation, right? So, my whole question actually, and not quite sure this kind of fits the storyline here that we've neatly laid out.
No, that's fine.
But it's like, so first of all, they kind of talk about, well, you need to brace for the next 6 months being just as terrible as the last 2 years. And I'm like, shit. That's not in my Excel spreadsheet.
No.
So I think there's some newness there. I think they're foreseeing the start of 24 also being rough.
Well, I think there's one point, which is all this in our conversation is a lagging indicator, and folks are going to have multi-year deals. I mean, you and I, we talked about a company where like, yeah, we don't have much up for renewal this year.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? This is going to hit next year, and it's going to be the same for a lot of companies. They're going to have that lagging effect that's going to keep, putting a cap on how much you can essentially grow. And so, no, I don't think it's fully over. I think, sure, if you look at things like the stock market, if you're into that, sure, they're bouncing a little bit because they're looking forward. They're looking
bouncing
forward to the end. Yeah,
like
from nothing to like,
23 has been at least a kind of, we're getting back up to the green kind of year.
Yeah.
NASDAQ is up like more than it used to, back then before it imploded.
Yeah.
So I think there are a couple of those people in the Wall Street Journal talk about a soft landing. I'm not going to explain what a fucking soft landing is, but they has nothing to do with the airplane.
Finance with Tony and Nico.
Yeah. But that's what's people are kind of talking about.
Yeah.
I think I believe 24 is going to get a little bit better. I think so.
Well, I think for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're going to see some of the fringe tools kind of dying. Honestly, those who latched on in this frothy market, where it's hey, we kind of like it, but do we need it? So it's a question mark on product market fit. And sure, for some of these bigger companies, they're not going to go and lose product market fit. They're too well established. There's a reason they got this far. But for the ones who aren't there yet on the growth trajectory, I think they might even reset to product market fit issues, right? And the other thing is there's going to be some companies who decide to take the wrong course corrections in this environment and die, right? You're going to see a lot of death spiraling happening for some companies. Yeah. And that's what's going to create, a fertile ground for some of those folks who's left standing.
I think Carter came out with 2,500 venture-funded companies died this year. So I saw another stat, like in total 15 or 16,000 B2B SaaS in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the 2,500 are all B2B SaaS, but let's just say there's a good chunk B2B SaaS in there. 2,500 companies just, stopped existing, kind of ran out of cash, right?
Yeah.
Good news here today on the show. Wonderful. So basically kind of taking all of this stuff together, right? You basically arrive at a, loss of go-to-market fit, which to a degree, is kind of a two-sided thing, though, because it could also be that some of the market is bouncing back because it's a ratio, basically, right? We're talking ratios here, and if the income side, if the plus side is suddenly coming back a little bit, then voila, we have go-to-market fit again, which is already counterintuitive when you kind of start thinking about the concept. Or the alternative is true. It's gonna, this is the new normal, or it's gonna stay like this for another 6 months and then get better. And we've been saying this. It's gonna be another 6 months now for like 2 years.
Yeah.
It's like
we started the show.
It's like a rolling. It's a rolling thing now. So let's see about that.
Well, new information presents itself every day, and then we have to reassess. That's just how it works.
Sure,
that's just how it works.
That's how we get ourselves out of the liability here.
Yeah.
No, but no. Generally speaking, right, this go-to-market could come from both ends, but basically, kind of the assumption is it won't. It won't.
And I think at the end of the day, you need to assess whether you still have go-to-market fit, right? That's at the end of the day what you need to do. Because if you don't know how to sell anymore, or how you're selling doesn't apply, work out, isn't sustainable, then you need to change.
So what are the Winning by Design folks, Jaco and Dave specifically, suggesting we do about that?
Well, when I read it, I was thinking, have they been hot desking in our office, to be honest?
Or just, I don't know, listening to the show.
Could be. I don't know.
A little bit more plausible.
A
little bit more plausible.
Yeah. But then I think you would, Anyway, so what are they proposing, Tony?
So I'm not saying that, they got the ideas from us, by the way.
No.
Just want to make triple show.
It's just a way to say we agree.
Yeah, that's what true.
It is.
Yeah, exactly. So they basically have three steps. Yeah. One is shocker, cut costs, but strategically.
Yeah.
Don't do it the dumb way. We're going to talk about this in a little bit. Go-to-market diagnostics, really emphasizing unit economics. And then lastly, basically fixing your go-to-market efficiency by way of, sprints and reviews and so forth, right? Let's go through them one by one.
Yes.
So they start out with, cutting costs. And I think they have like one very kind of straightforward example there. There are plenty of other examples. And I feel it also fits into the second bucket a little bit. But the one, cutting cost first was like, hey, just have fewer reps.
Well, if they aren't making quota, that's,
No, but so what I like about the Winning by Design folks is they're kind of high up there in the academic ivory tower kind of thing. But then they're breaking it down, making it ultra tangible for everyone reading the stuff. That is like, well, I'm busy. I need to, not get fired. Can you please simplify this for me?
Dumber. Make it dumber.
And one of these one of the examples is like, well, if you reduce the amount of reps, you spend less money in general on sales. That's good. Number two, the remaining reps will have more stuff to close and quota will go up.
Yeah.
Meaning that you not only will kind of decrease cost, but some of your metrics will improve, right? Kind of quota per rep will go up, which is an important metrics for a couple of reasons. But generally speaking, that's kind of their approach to this, right? Kind of just fire, or at least one example is kind of let go of some sales reps, and then our overlay on this would be, well, apparently the reason why you close less and less and less is not only that maybe your reps aren't as skilled, which is kind of usually a thing that Winning by Design is kind of very strong on, which I think they're totally right with. But also probably you have few opportunities to work with.
Yeah.
That's probably also the case. You probably cut a lot of, marketing and top funnel initiatives, and that is now seeping through to your reps. And guess what? Those reps don't have enough opportunities anymore. If you kind of decrease the amount of reps, you have enough, or again, good enough amount of opportunities for those remaining reps.
I think Jason Lemkin, he put it pretty well. It's like, cut sales and you have a problem this year. Cut marketing and you have a problem next year. It's complicated. So, it is complicated.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking, like, so we had this conversation around, hey, who would you rather lose, on AE or on SDR? And we're like, well, on AE, because SDRs, they produce ops, you can make it work, and maybe some overperform on quota completion and stuff, right? But if what we're seeing now is also happening on SDR level, their efficiency in booking meetings. So we discussed on this show the number of touches required, they've increased. There's so much more work required to book a meeting with AI exacerbating some of the channels.
Yep.
Google, Yahoo cracking down on spam.
Yep.
Like,
And then uncracking down.
and then uncracking down on it. Yeah, that's true. So, like, how do you go about then balancing those two when you cut? Like, how do you do that strategically the best way?
Yeah, it's really difficult.
Yeah. It's complicated. Yeah. Good.
So it is complicated. I could say, hey, maybe use a tool that helps you with some of these things and stuff. But generally speaking, I think what many people haven't done, and that's kind of seeps a little bit in number 2, kind of really kind of going through the go-to-market diagnostics. What many people haven't done is to actually consider the full funnel impact of your cutting. That's basically what I would say is you cut the stuff first where you feel kind of you have a very low confidence that there's a connection between doing it and then revenue coming out of this.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of this is the attribution game, and see there was a connection. And either you didn't think about how that then would result in few opportunities, or you thought about it, but you got it wrong.
Yeah.
And then basically kind of, less stuff going through the pipeline. And then, teams that are further down funnel, they're not having enough to work.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all of this, I think another way to look at this also is just a supply chain problem. So funny enough, I was with a very, very, very big pharmaceutical company here in Copenhagen. Not going to say who. And they were looking at our software for supply chain purposes, actually.
Okay.
And I was like, guys, we're not a supply chain company. It's not about that. But it's super closely related.
Yeah.
Kind of the supply chain between factories and trucks driving and then pallets falling off the truck.
Yeah.
is very much the same thing as stuff being worked in one team, and then some you have a conversion that is and so forth, right? It's very similar.
It's a revenue factory.
And exactly, it's a revenue factory. Not having that mindset, not realizing that all of these things are connected.
Yeah.
And if I take something down here, then I don't need as much capacity over there. Or if I do that, then there's spare capacity, and I just need to be aware. And maybe this spare capacity that I'm building up with my sales team is more expensive than the cut that I did on the top end, right?
Yeah.
Kind of, and realizing that stuff, I think that's sometimes pretty difficult, and obviously kind of Winning by Design guys are pushing that out quite a lot, right? What they're then basically, what they're talking about when they mean a go-to-market diagnostic or go-to-market diagnostics, they actually talk about roughly what we would call just CAC payback, basically.
Yeah.
But segmented CAC payback, right? And again, super great how they're doing it. They're basically like, hey, listen, all of those different things that you're doing in your business, treat all of them as their own business unit.
Yeah.
And then judge them by the profit margins or whatever that business unit is generating for you, right?
Yep.
So if you have an SDR function, look at, okay, SDRs are producing stuff, and for that business to work out, well, you need some AEs to work through those opportunities, right? And then, that whole, how much does it cost you and how much comes out of it?
Yeah.
And then the same with, different marketing strategies. Okay, treat that as a business unit. And also they need some AEs that work through those opportunities, so they need to be included in that business unit. And the same with different markets, different segments, different all kinds of stuff, right? Kind of really try and slice and dice and split and cut and whatever we're going to call it, your revenue engine, and try and figure out which pieces are actually not helping you in your efficiency, right? And this is absolutely 1000% aligned with our thinking. As you do this analysis, you will find parts of your business that are underperforming. And guess what? If you take those out, the rest, the whole sum of your business will then be better performing suddenly.
Yes.
Right. And you can do it in two ways. You can take the underperforming business units out and put the money into your pocket and be A-okay with that. Or you take that money out and put it into the higher performing parts of your business, and then actually even gain additional efficiencies here, right? And in order to do that can be sometimes pretty complicated. data heavy, and so forth. Winning by Design is recommending to use an outside consultant for that, which I'm sure you guys should just be calling up Jacko and give the code word revenue formula.
Then you'll probably get a T-shirt. Or
maybe you get a T-shirt or discount. I'm not sure.
We will send you a T-shirt.
I will send you exactly. And I think this is something that you should be considering. I haven't done this already. I think there's 1 or 2 episodes where we talk through how that would actually work.
Yeah.
So listen to that if you want to.
I mean, we recently talked about a couple of examples of the power of running this analysis, right? And I think what's really key to understand is one thing is looking at the CAC payback. Another is you have the entire bow tie to consider as well, right? And when we talk about unit economics, we had an example actually of sales touching trials. And they were effectively closing them at a high ACV. So on paper, it looked great. Let's do that. But when you ran the entire analysis, actually it was a net loss comparatively.
Yeah. So we're probably not going to go into the details of that story, but you're right. Actually, if you do say, hey, this is a business unit, you can't cut it at new biz.
No.
You actually have to include the the east side of the bow tie.
Yeah.
And then maybe the metric you should be using suddenly becomes lifetime value.
Yeah.
Instead of just CAC payback. All kinds of things to consider. And again, once you kind of go through this whole motion, that can then help you to understand where to cut and where not. And the thing is also, lifetime value is great, but it's also takes a while to kind of capture that.
Yeah.
So you might even, if you have a cash crunch, you might even be preferring to have more revenue now, but maybe not so super sustainable, versus less revenue but super sustainable, right? There's all kinds of things to consider in terms of cash and so forth. But it's it's complicated, man. It's really complicated.
But that's why it starts with analysis. You need to base it off of real numbers, not just in isolation of one team or one department. This is a go-to-market problem. It's not a sales problem or marketing problem. It's across the bow tie.
Yes. And ultimately, this might, again, just as number one, lead to cuts. You might be cutting marketing initiatives. You might be cutting geographies. You might be closing offices. They're even talking about firing customers.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, just get, rid of those, because that's apparently not really working for you for whatever reason, right? So fairly drastic stuff. They're pulling out all the stops. There's hey, all of these things you need to consider if you haven't already, right? And it's we're at the end of 23. A lot of people have considered pretty drastic things already, and now we're kind of just going to the next level, I feel, right? So going to number 3 here, which really then is, okay, you have done cost cutting in a smart way. You have analyzed your business with a go-to-market diagnostic, consider the full bow tie, understand what's expensive, what's not, throw away what's too expensive. And then ultimately, in the end is also then, okay, then what is left? What can you do in order to improve it, right? It's pretty straightforward, actually. And I always want to re-emphasize how much everyone is not caring about, incremental improvements, continuous improvement. It's crazy to me. So we're starting to look at, some of the analytics we can do in the software and kind of across the customer board, right? You have 2 reasons why you're not hitting target. And maybe we're going to do a study on this or something. But the biggest buckets are you're not hitting your processing metrics. Like your conversion rate is dropping, generating a revenue loss for you. Your ACV is dropping, generating a revenue loss for you, right? Because all of that stuff compounds and adds up.
Yeah.
And when you look at this bridge chart, kind of, you can clearly see how much money is sitting in those processing metrics, right? Versus in the volume metrics. Anywho, people are across the board always underemphasizing that. And number one, you can take better care of those and, just run a tighter ship, right? And number 2, you can potentially work with folks like Winning by Design and basically kind of figure out, which part of the funnel, which part of the bow tie needs improvement, and then do specific coaching around it. Yeah. And I think one thing that we discussed actually kind of from Winning by Design in that sense, they basically deploy coaching for, I don't know, your discovery stage
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
like that, right? And then, you get better there and you do that again and again, and it compounds and so forth, right? So all of those little tweaks can be extremely impactful. And that's kind of one way to do it. I think another way to do it, run monthly or quarterly business reviews, just to see how how the engine is working, become aware that actually some of your processing steps are sliding, become aware that that is probably a big reason for why you're not hitting target, and figure out why that actually is. Kind of start digging in, right? And especially when you're thinking about you're reducing staff, you would actually expect some conversion rates to improve. Yeah. Simply, hey, if you take out the bottom 30-40% of your sales reps and you only have the 60 top performers in there, well, the conversion rate should be better. Your ACVs should be better now. Sales cycles should be better. Conversely, there might be things like, hey, you're taking out some top funnel resources and suddenly your MQL's opportunity conversion drops, for example, right? There might be those things, but generally speaking, when you reduce, actually your conversion rate should go up. And you have the same law also the other way around. If you scale up, conversion rates come down, right? So you should be actually almost expecting and then seeing it. And if you don't see it, or if you don't see it enough, you should consider, doing specific sprints and, whatever on improving those over time.
But I think it's also like it seems kind of silly that it takes such a catalyst of loss of go-to-market fit to run this diagnostic and really truly understand how your business operates. Because how can you make optimal decisions if you don't know how it truly operates? Like,
but the thing is, you just, I was myself part of that whole game, right? And it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why? It's, hey, okay, the only metric that's being measured is ARR. Okay, let's optimize that metric. And then once it's higher up, I can go back to the well. And get some more cash. And suddenly, and we kind of skipped over that part here. Suddenly that well went dry. Going out of business, or just unwilling to fund those kind of businesses anymore, right? And suddenly you need to realize, oh shit, I need to become a very different company really fast. And that's what's underlying here as well, right? And I think it's just a new kind of grown up moment that's happening, That's actually what I think. It's the industry, albeit 15 years old or something like this. I think there's just a new stage now for us to be a bit smarter about how we spend cash and how we grow. There's new learnings, there's new ways of understanding how SaaS works, basically. And those learnings have become, are good and bad. It's like, oh, not everything is worth 40x. Something is only worth 5 to 10x, which is, not necessarily bad either. And some of those are the learnings on the capital side, and then now need to be matched with learnings on the operating side as well. And kind of, I think this is what we're kind of discovering and uncovering, and what we're pushing towards, right? And I think Jaco and Dave kind of did a fantastic job in like bringing this here into a piece of content, a document that everyone should be downloading and studying. And helping us understand, what is really why is all of this chaos happening in my company, and what could be a root cause that I then can start working on, right? Wonderful. So maybe wrapping this here, the thesis is, hey, we've all lost go-to-market fit. We've all lost how to actually sell. The solution is, number one, cut costs in a strategic way, not across the board. And maybe you've done that recently, so that kind of might suck to do that again. Number two, do a go-to-market diagnostic and emphasize the unit economics around it. And number three, iteratively improve your go-to-market efficiency, right? You run sprints, run QBRs, talk to winning by design, whatever is necessary. But those three things in order to get back to go-to-market fit.
That's it.
Thanks, Mikkel.
That was an abrupt ending. So check it out. You can find it on Winning by Design. If you're listening early as we published, you have to wait probably a little bit for them to, wake up, have their coffee, and push a button or something. Check it out. And
otherwise, leave a review to help the cause.
Oh, back to this. Thank you,
Have a good
Tony.
one. Bye bye.
Bye.